What's up, Planeswalkers? It's your boy K-Dog. Got a standard Golgari list for you. This one will take a look at Deathtouch Tribal. So this is kind of one of those fun decks where it's like I've done one for each of the seasons. But you know, Core 21 brought us a pretty fun new card, Hooded Blightfang. Obviously, other people have kind of built their own kind of takes on this card. You know, Cavalcade or just kind of Deathtouch Tribal, things like that. I enjoy the Deathtouch synergy, and so that's kind of where I went. Golgari seems like it's the best way to go, in my opinion. So just kind of review. Hooded Blightfang is a 3-mana, 1/4 Deathtouch. Whenever a creature you control with Deathtouch attacks, each opponent loses 1 life, and you gain 1 life. And whenever a creature you control with Deathtouch deals damage to a Planeswalker, destroy that Planeswalker. So that's pretty fantastic. Your opponent wants to protect their Planeswalker, they have to block it. Your Deathtouch creature kills that creature, no matter how big it is or whatever, unless of course it's indestructible, which can happen in certain situations. But generally speaking, you're probably going to be getting some pretty good value and force your opponent into some bad blocks. So either way, it's a pretty reasonable card. And then just the draining for 1 and 1. Is a way for us to kind of put 2 additional damage, because the problem with Deathtouch is just look at this one right here. It's 1 power. That's pretty underwhelming, and the kind of having that keyword ability Deathtouch typically means that the creature makes up for it in other ways by having a lower power. So that's definitely one of the downsides of why Deathtouch is kind of not better than it really is. And of course, Deathtouch only works if you're up against like other creature decks. If you're up against a control deck, you know, they just don't really care that you're running Deathtouch creatures. They're just going to Shadow the Sky you and Elspeth you and all that good stuff. But yeah, so it's definitely more of a fun casual deck, and definitely something I've been playing around and having fun with. So here's my updated Core 21 version. So we'll start from top here. A couple copies of Foulmire Knight. Just have a 1/1 Deathtouch, gives you another option on turn 1. And of course, if you top deck it, you can instant speed to draw a card, and then play it down later as a 1/1 creature. So just having that flexibility, I think, is nice as a 2-of. Of course, Knight of the Ebon Legion does not have Deathtouch. However, you can activate its ability to give it Deathtouch. So I think it fits in perfectly here. And just being a powerful 1-drop on its own, it's pretty easy to make a case for Knight of the Ebon Legion. All 4 copies, of course. Vampire of the Dire Moon, Deathtouch, and Lifelink. Deathtouch Tribal, I think this is probably your best pure 1-drop, 1-drop Deathtouch creature. 3 copies here of Eliminate. Sure, you have Deathtouch, but your opponent can just take that 1 damage from the Vampire of the Dire Moon, or or an Orzhov Enforcer, or a Chevill, which we're about to get to, and it's 1 damage. That's no problem. So you do need ways to deal with your opponent's creatures still. So even if they choose not to block and take that 1 damage or 2 damage, whatever the case may be. So you do need some hard removal to get to make sure your opponent isn't able to Priest of Forgotten Gods you, or Mayhem Devil, or any number of creatures that you don't want to deal with. And of course, Planeswalkers at 3 mana, things like the Fairy, obviously. So 3 copies here of Eliminate, just make sure we have some hard removal to kind of deal with our opponent's creatures as well. A couple copies here of Orzhov Enforcer. It's a 1/2 Deathtouch, and the Afterlife one is kind of the appeal here. That's kind of what gives it some nice versatility. So even if your opponent is able to kill it, you block something, you lose your dude, and you get a 1/1 flyer. So that's pretty reasonable. A couple copies of Heroic Intervention in the main, giving our creatures hexproof and indestructible in return. It's going to protect us in a lot of situations. So we can go to combat, swing all. Your opponent blocks. You give them all indestructible. Well, they still have Deathtouch, so they kill all your opponent's creatures, and all of your creatures are still alive. Same thing, you know, defensively. Your opponent attacks all, we just block them all. Deathtouch kills everything, and indestructible means they don't die. And it protects them from sweepers and things like that. So Heroic Intervention is just a fantastic spell. And of course, Deathtouch Golgari. Running 3 copies here of Chevill, Bane of Monsters. It's a legendary, just a 1/3. Again, you know, low underpowered creature for Deathtouch. So, but be able to put bounty counters on your opponent's creature, and then eliminate them or have them die in combat to your other Deathtouch creatures to gain life and draw cards is pretty sweet. So nice kind of a card advantage play there, which is kind of something that we're a little bit missing. So that's why we're running just 2 copies here of Grimdancer, 3/3 for 3. Well, it's just a pretty solid card, and since we're mostly black anyway, we don't mind having the double black, the mana cost here. And then we can choose between Menace, Deathtouch, and Lifelink. So obviously we're going to choose Deathtouch, and then it's just a matter of do we want the Menace or the Lifelink. Just the 2 copies because we want to make a couple copies of Midnight Reaper. And of course, went over the Hooded Blightfang as all 4 of course. And Midnight Reaper does not have Deathtouch, of course, but it's just a solid creature on its own, 3/2. And whenever a non-token creature you control dies, we take a damage and we draw a card. So just trying to get the extra little bit of kind of card advantage. Deathtouch creatures means our creatures are probably going to be dying in combat, which is fine because we can. Deathtouch means we're probably killing our opponent's creatures, and then we draw a card in the process. So we'll definitely take that, especially just as a 2/of. We also need to make room for some removal in the form of a Murderous Rider for creatures and planeswalkers. So just a couple copies here in the main deck, and then. So again, the Deathtouch creatures are pretty understated, so I think Garruk fits in pretty nicely here, giving them +3/+3 and trample until end of turn. Or I can just make a 3/3 beast token as well, which is fine. And then potentially getting up to -7 to search for more Deathtouch creatures and put them on the battlefield on your end step is pretty reasonable. And then just 2 copies here of Questing Beast. You can definitely make a case to run like more copies because this is kind of what really gives the deck some oomph. Just pretty much does everything. It's a Deathtouch, of course, and Vigilance, Haste, 4/4. This is going to help you win a lot of games. But, we are Deathtouch tribal, so even though she's pretty mediocre, still want to run 3 copies here of Vraska. So we're not on 4, just 3 copies I think is the right number to make room for, obviously, Questing Beast. And I think the Garruk, the +3/+3 trample, is pretty important as well. So 3 copies here of Vraska feels right. Of course, whenever a creature with Deathtouch deals damage to a player or a planeswalker, which is pretty cool, you get to put a +1/+1 counter on that creature. So those 1 power creature now get an extra counter on them, and they become a little bit beefier, which is nice. And then you can -2 a couple times to make 1/1 assassin creature tokens with Deathtouch. And whenever they deal damage to a planeswalker, destroy that planeswalker. So it's kind of a similar effect to the Hooded Blightfang. So we do have these 4 drops, but we're pretty heavily concentrated on 1, 2, and 3. So we're just going to run 23 land, especially since we do have just a little bit of card draw. So a couple Castle Locthwain, since we're mostly in black anyways, and 7 swamps, 6 forest, 4 Overgrown Tombs, and then the 4 Fabled Passage. We have lots of 1-drops, so I want to be able to play an untapped land on 1 as often as possible. So we're running all these basics with the Overgrown Tomb here as well. And then once we get to turns 3 and 4, we still want to be playing on curve as well. And so being able to play Fabled Passage on 4, get that second green source if we need it for a Garruk or a Questing Beast. Making sure we have the double black and things like that. So Fabled Passage gives us that little bit of fixing we need since we do have a good number of double black and double green spells. Even though we're mostly black, as you can see, we have all these early turn spells that are predominantly black. But we still need to get double green in certain situations, so definitely think you want Fabled Passage instead of like a Temple, just so you can play on curve as consistently as possible, because we're essentially an aggro list. So sideboard here, 3 Agonizing Remorse for the hand disruption. You could run Gem Razor, but I think I'd rather just run Return Nature, Instant Speed, Artifact, Enchantment Removal, and potentially hitting our opponent's graveyard. A couple Assassin's Trophy, just kind of a catch-all removal spell. Couple copies of Vivien. Maybe it's a little bit cute, but I think it could be interesting in a lot of situations. You just being able to flash in one of your Deathtouch creatures on your opponent's combat step could be pretty interesting. And of course, digging for creatures, since we are pretty creature heavy. This fits in pretty nicely, I think. You still need some graveyard interaction, I think. So a couple copies of Leyline of the Void, which you can play for free if it's in your opening hand, and then everything on your opponent's side that enters their graveyard goes to exile instead. Running 2 copies here of the Golgari Queen. If Garruk doesn't quite line up right, if we need some more removal with Vraska, we can bring her in, take out Garruk. It's a pretty easy switch in certain situations, but in game 1, we just want to be aggressive, so I think Garruk fits in nicely. And Vraska doesn't always work out well, depending on your opponent's deck. But generally, she's pretty useful, so a lot of times she'll just come in for games 2 and 3. And then finally here, we have Polukranos. Just another way for us to kind of get a big beefy creature. It works well against aggro because it's a 6/6 for 4 mana that whenever it takes damage, you prevent the damage and you just remove those counters from it instead, and you can escape it for 6 mana and 6 cards. With our Deathtouch creatures, we don't mind necessarily trading in combat and filling up our own graveyard. We're not really running like any of the Call of the Death Door type shenanigans, so we don't mind escaping Polukranos. And also works well against removal heavy decks because we can just keep escaping it and having it come back as a 12/12, and just kind of tax your opponent's removal. All right, so that's the deck. Let's jump into some matches, see how we do. Okay, no skills, just gills. Nice. Get to go first. Whew, that's a hand. Don't love it, but don't really feel confident about a mulligan here, so we'll keep it. We have the kill spell on 2 and a creature on 3, so at the end of the day, it is not terrible. And of course, we draw a land because that's Arena. Why wouldn't you draw a land when you have 5 in your opening hand? Hopefully, they have a 2-drop here that we can kill, and then just drop the Reaper on 3, and hopefully, we can do some stuff from there. Pack Mastiff, so just kind of a Boros starter list, it looks like. Ooh, Chevill, that would be nice to have earlier. Could make a case to play that there, but I think we'll just get the Reaper down. Especially if we do a 2-drop here, then we can just Chevill and something else. Ember Hauler, so that can deal with our Midnight Reaper. Once they have mana open, if they have an untapped land, they can sack it now. Do we attack in and block just to draw a card? Do we wait for them to activate it? Questing BZ. I think we'll just have to go for that. Yeah, just swing. If they want to block, that's fine. You can deal with Midnight Reaper anytime, so it just kind of force them to make a decision here if they want to block it or not. Okay, we'll take that. All right, so next turn we have hopefully Chevill plus something else. Nice thing about playing the Chevill, if the Ember Hauler is still out, is we can still get that benefit even when they sacrifice it. Drawing a card and gaining life, but they could of course just sack it in response. So hopefully they have another creature down, so we have some options. With the mana open, they'll want to play around that. It is just a single mana of any color. So we'll see what they do. If they tap out, then yeah, Ember Hauler is a pretty easy choice. Wow, they're going for the Fear, and then they shock. Sure. Okay. I'm not sure I understand that play, but I guess it makes sense to you. We'll shovel, and now let's keep swinging here. So again, they can trade with our Reaper, but they can do it any time. They choose not to. That's interesting. Obviously, no reason to play Shovel number 2. We're just running 3 copies. We don't want to really draw multiples of these. But having 3 is fun because there's a reasonable chance we'll lose one of them. But here, we definitely want to try to get some value off of our Shovel if possible. They could have Lava Coil or Scorching Dragonfire, but nope, they just have some creatures. Still have the mana open for the Ember Hauler. So what do we want to deal with? Okay, our opponent is doing some things here. I guess the Mastiff. Ooh, Blightfang. That's pretty sweet. Now we're cooking. Let's swing all. So just 2 triggers since Midnight Reaper, of course, does not have Deathtouch. Okay, we draw some cards off Reaper and the Chevill. Another land, another Reaper, so we'll take that. Opponent's down to 2, so they need a board clear here, but those decks typically don't run that kind of thing. And just a 2/1 Goblin Bird Grabber. Alright, we'll swing all, and that should put a Blightfang. We'll finish them off. Alright. So against a pretty aggressive Boros list, what do we want here? Just lots of cheap creatures trying to flood the board. So I feel like Planeswalkers are a little bit vulnerable. The Deathtouch is tempting, but maybe we'll just go Polukranos, just kind of a little bit bigger creature down. Kind of tax their removal. Intervention is nice, but it doesn't seem like it's too amazing with what they're doing. Do they have art? They had the aura, but we can just deal with their creatures. It probably doesn't matter. So we'll go trophy. I don't think giving them lands is too critical. If they're just on a bunch of burn removal, maybe they might have enough to make us regret taking those out. But I think this is fine as is. So we can make a case to bring in Vraska as well, but this should be fine. And if we lose this game, then we can always adjust for the next one. 2 swamps and a forest. We have the kind of similar to last time, but we do have a little bit better fixing, and we still have additional removal spell instead of just 2 spells. So 2 swamps is fine. Probably just Fabled Passage for a green source, just to kind of thin the deck a little bit. With 23 lands, we don't necessarily want to be running drawn into a bunch of lands here. So we'll take 2. I got a combat trick here, sure. They just tap out just to pass priority. I'll take it. Yeah, grab a forest. I think we'll drop the Enforcer. That seems pretty reasonable. If they don't have removal or a shock or something, then we can just easily prevent them from attacking in. We got the Blightfang on 3, so we can do our own attacking. Well, it looks like they have a way to deal with it. Shock, sure. And now we get a 1/1. So this is where the Orzhov Enforcer really shines. Yeah, we'll take that trade. I mean, we got rid of their creature and a shock, all with one of our own creatures. I think we just Blightfang here. I mean, we could just Midnight Reaper and get the shock out of them, but 4 toughness can be hard for them to deal with. So I'll probably just go Reaper here unless we... oh, that's pretty sweet. Yeah, well, Reaper just in case they have a way to deal with this Blightfang. Swing, drain. They can throw one of their tokens in front of it. They're probably better off just going wide. So definitely going wide is a little bit of a weakness for your opponent. Somehow able to flood the board with tokens. That can be a little bit tricky to deal with. But that's where a card like Blightfang shines so much, because we're just going to drain them quite a bit, and so that'll definitely counteract a lot of that damage from go wide type strategies. So now we have all the removal here. Yeah, definitely want to kill this. It's a 3-mana play. Yep. More lands. Well, we have the Castle Locthwain, so that's pretty cool. Let's attack, see how they block before we go for the removal. We'll let them decide how we want to kill things. Okay, prevent 1 from the Blightfang. You think you'd want to double block and try to kill it if you're going to block it at all. Otherwise, it's just 1 damage. That's interesting. Yeah, we'll kill the token, keep our vampire alive. So, not ideal blocks from our opponent, but we'll take it. Not sure they understand how Deathtouch works. Looks like they're activating just to pass priority again, maybe? Yeah, we'll take 2, no problem. Chevill, that's pretty sweet. And do we have mana to... yeah, we can still draw a card. So we'll swing here. If we want to kill something with the trophy, we can. We'll see how they block again. We'll probably want to keep these live if that's the block they go for, which is most likely. So I think on this board, I think I'd rather just continue to keep my creatures alive. So now they can go get a white source, which is a little bit of a downside. Fix their mana, but that's also kind of on them for keeping a little bit of sketchy hand. They don't play everything, so there's that. But we definitely want to keep our other Deathtouch creature alive for the Blightfang. Okay, another 3/2. So Chevill will target that and see what we draw here. Another Blightfang. That's pretty good. When it says good game, we'll swing these three, leave Chevill back, we'll get a bunch of triggers. I think our opponent's just about giving up. They're not dead on board. They have another turn or two, depending on how they block and how they draw here. You gotta draw a bunch of cards, you gotta gain some life. Grimdancer, yep. I think that's pretty much a game. Deathtouch and Menace. Since they have an empty board, we're at 26 life. So they could have some more creatures here to kind of throw in front, but we're getting 2 triggers off these Blightfangs. That's 2, 4, 6, 8. Yeah, we just went off of attacks. That's that way to deal with it. Flood it out pretty hard. We'll just attack. No reason to drag this out any longer by trying to Castle Locthwain or anything cute like that. Okay, up against Gadfly. This hand seems okay. We have all the fixing we need here. Go Knight on 1, Chevill on 2, and then let's see what we get. Temple of Deceit. Okay, against some kind of a control list. It kind of sucks. Evolving Wilds. Let's swing one, see if they have this figure unsummon. Nope. We'll go ahead and drop the Chevill. That's our best value play here. And we'll see what our opponent's up to. So we have Orzhov Enforcer, or just hold up Murderous Rider. It's maybe like a Ashiok or something like that. Grabbing an island. Okay, Dimir Flash maybe? That's just a budget mana base. Or just a sketchy opening hand mana base. Grabbing a Swamp. That swing too? Nope. Hooded Blightfang. Yeah, I think that's our best play here. No counter spell. Could have a Petty Theft though. Or Brineborn. Blacklance Paragon. Sure. I'm gonna block the Chevill. It kind of sucks, but that's also fine. We'll get rid of that. I mean, we have to fight through this flash nonsense somehow. No attacks. Good Vraska here, but she's kind of vulnerable to their flyer. Let's attack first, see what they do. Could also just Foulmire, draw, play a 1/1 Deathtouch. I block the Blightfang. And Tyrant Scorn our Knight. Sure. Okay, well, Vraska here. Just be mana efficient. Make a 1/1. Just have a Spectral Sailor here. Omen of the Dead. Okay, so just kind of a jank Dimir Flash list, running, what, 80 something cards? we get the Black Lance Paragon back in hand. And we'll swing. Trigger, trigger. Flash it in. We'll Murderous Rider it. And unfortunately, missing a black source to actually play something here. We'll go ahead and activate. So we're down to 15. We do have 4 cards in hand. Okay, we'll take it. So yeah, against Gamer Chick 55. Go first. It's awkward hand, but I still think we keep it. We just have the Knight on turn 1. Fabled can get us another. Oh, with the Questing Beast, we need a second green source. So we'll see. Hopefully we draw land and that can kind of help us out. Charmed Stray. There's a land. Swing 1, take 1. There's no reason for you to block, dude. There you go. Okay, Chevill. Now we can target Stray or whatever else they play here. Oh, we have Pridemate. Moment of Heroism. Not even doing that as a combat trick, just saying, boom, here it is. Yeah, swing 2. Passionate Orator. Aren't you clever? Okay, we'll make sure we grab... With this hand, we definitely need a second green source. I would rather grab black, so that's mostly what our deck is based around. No, it's Blightfang attack Chevill, I think. Deathtouch, my dude. I guess that's why you're an unranked, because you don't read the cards. Can't imagine that was worth losing a Chevill. Hushbringer. I've not seen that card in a long time. And they throw away their Charmed Stray. Cool. Yeah, just questing Beezy. Swing. If they're holding up a combat trick and want to block trade with something on the Hushbringer, that's fine. You can't block that. I'm going to block the 1. But counter. Okay, we're in a good spot here. Destroy. Wow, Collar the Culprits. Have I ever had that card played against me? I'm not sure I have. Maybe once. Maybe. We could Vampire of the Dire Moon, activate Knights, maybe? Yeah, let's activate. Could be a case for holding up Heroic Intervention, but I think I just want to go pedal to the metal here. If we do get board wiped, we have Vraska that can kind of help us a little bit. Pacifism. Okay. So they want to gain that life. Another Blightfang. I think that's the game. Boom, boom, boom. 6 triggers. Yep. Even against mono white, life gain. We got there. Alright, so we definitely want some enchantment interaction. Garruk is nice, but doesn't do much against their flyers. Vraska can always kill their flyers for what it's worth. So 62. We need to make a couple other cuts. Intervention, if they're not running sweepers, which they don't seem to be, then I think intervention doesn't really do too much. enough to make it worthwhile. Maybe trophy might be worth it. I don't think the lands are going to hurt us too much. I mean, the Enforcer dies and we get a flyer that can potentially block their angel or something. Or we just leave it as is. Let's bring in the trophies. I feel a little bit safer about having additional removal. They're pretty creature heavy, so just make sure we have ways to answer them, especially if they're running Ajani Planeswalkers, then we definitely want to deal with that as well. So yeah, I think the trophy is fine for that flexibility. We're also going to hit their auras, their enchantments, their pacifisms, or presumably things like Banishing Light, just because that's a good spell to be running in mono white. It's not amazing. I think with the Blightfang, I think we go ahead and drop the Foulmire Knight here. So yeah, just Tomb into Castle Locthwain into Fabled Passage. Feels pretty reasonable. Just going to get that Deathtouch train going. I'll probably just Grimdancer, just to have a better attacker for the Blightfang. So we'll get that. Get our board presence going. Tap land on 2 unless we find something like a Chevill or something else worth casting. We do not. Attack 1, that doesn't seem worth it. They don't seem to be paying attention to what Deathtouch, but maybe they learned and they just take the 1. I don't know why they blocked with it last time, but we'll just play it safe here, hold it back, keep them from attacking in. I think even if they're running life gain synergy, I think we can still kind of overcome them. Yeah, Deathtouch, dude. We'll get that off the board. I'm fine with that. The Grimdancer, they don't have anything down, so yeah, we'll go Deathtouch and Menace. So we can get a free attack here unless they have multiple creatures. Nope, just another Ordor, sure. We'll go Blightfang. And we'll just. Do you want the Tomb? Let's attack. I can't block. We'll just Fabled Passage. I don't think the Tomb is really relevant at this point. We need to just crack these passages, try to get lands out of our deck to hopefully stop drawing lands, or at least slightly reduce our chances for what it's worth. I mean, 4 lands in play plus 4 in hand is not very ideal. Castle Locthwain is nice though. Could have that moment of heroism thing, so we'll say no blocks. I think that was 1 mana. Let's grab a swamp, doesn't matter. Trophy. We'll grab the Locthwain for the card draw, start swinging in. Pass. So we have Locthwain or trophy open here. Knight. Sure. Probably trophy that on end step. Wow, we take. It's a lot of damage if we draw here. 5 damage. Could trophy them on end step and give them. Yeah, let's just get rid of that. Let's just get rid of it. No reason to take 5 life here just to draw a card. Knight of Ebon Legion. That's pretty good. Drop that. Drop you. Swing. And pass. So now we have Castle Locthwain or Knight of Ebon Legion activations. Luminous Bonds. Sure, dude. It's pretty cool. You attack in. Crack this, just make sure we have the most mana available, but I think we just have 5 total, so we have 1 activation only, but that's fine. Oh, block. I'll activate. Cool, you just suicided your thing. We have double activation here, let's just go for that. Mana 6. Play Tomb, since we got nothing else to do with our mana. Get a counter. And depending on what we draw next turn, we can just crack this Castle Locthwain to find some additional things. Okay, Rambunctious Mutt when I'm not running any artifacts or enchantments for you to blow up. So they have to block to not die. Pump it up once just to kill it. And we'll drop our vampire. Now we can draw next turn. Pacifism, okay. Luminous Bonds. Aren't you special? We'll draw. Vraska. Is that game here? Not quite. Not quite. Hit for 5. Opponent goes down to 1. Pass. So we can probably sack our vampire here. Even if we find a enchantment removal, we're going to be wanting to hit this one. We could just sack our lands as well, since we have so many. Get that off the board. And there should be game here, unless they have a way to deal with this Knight of the Ebon Legion. There's like a white mana destroy target tap creature. Call the culprit. Okay, buddy. Let's plus. Let's sack the vampire. Knight of Ebon Legion. We'll play the vampire. We'll draw and play the Foulmire Knight. Oh, Questing Beast. Yeah, we'll Questing Beast. Let's win the game. Win the game. Boom. Alright. Mono white life gain. Mid thing is pretty difficult for us, but we got there in the end. So yeah, definitely loving this version of Deathtouch. Obviously plenty of other creators have given you their take. Kind of depends on what you're into. What do we got here? Deathtouch. Yeah, definitely make a case if you want to make it more, just a little bit better. Maybe run a third Questing Beast. Maybe shave to 1 Garruk, or just lose the Garruks altogether. Definitely don't think you need to run all 4 Vraska. It's pretty medium, honestly, even for what she does. But you know, we're on Deathtouch Tribal, still very flavorful, and she makes you a couple tokens, which can get bigger, which is nice. But having the Garruk giving them trample is nice, or even making a 3/3 beast in certain situations. And just Chevill, Heroic Intervention. Just have lots of nice tools at your disposal here to kind of grind out your opponents. But obviously, Hooded Blightfang is really just the star of the show here. So just jamming as many Deathtouch creatures as possible. You could just kind of make this like an all-in on kind of cheap Deathtouch creatures, but you know, you're not always going to find your Hooded Blightfang, or you're not going to find it until kind of the mid to late game. So you need other ways to kind of win and get value. Grimdancer is just a fantastic creature at 3 mana. The Midnight Reaper, just kind of a nice value engine because we're a little bit light on card draw. So having the 2 Midnight Reapers, the Chevilles, things like that, just give you lots of value here to kind of grind it out. The Castle Locthwains, because you're going to be gaining life with the Blightfang in a lot of situations. The Vampire of the Dire Moon, a little bit of life gain there. So yeah, having the card draw from the Locthwain is pretty key. And then just the 2 Questing Beast is just kind of the minimum, but you could also do, like I said, you could run more. Eliminate, just a fantastic new option. And then having all these 1-drops is pretty amazing. Knight of Ebon Legion doesn't inherently have Deathtouch, but it's pretty easy to activate it and just a good creature on its own. Sideboard, you know, Vivien is definitely something you could play around with. But you know, flash decks are still a thing, so I think Vivien is still a pretty reasonable option. Returned in Nature, still like this better than like a Gem Razor in this deck. Gem Razor does let you go a little bit bigger by turning one of your Deathtouch creatures into a 4/4 with Reach and Trample, which is nice, so you could lean that way. But I think Return to Nature is just a fine option as it is. And then Polukranos just kind of gives you some flexibility as well. And of course, Vraska always works in these colors. Trophy is nice, just kind of gives you some more flexible removal. And then of course you need the Agonizing Remorse as well. So I feel pretty good with the list as it is. Obviously not a top tier list, but again, it's probably something you can play on the ladder and do just fine with it, at least at some of the lower levels. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys, and until next time, make sure you jank with a purpose.